Senator. We'll now move to question time, and I'll call Senator Duniam.
President, my question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. Can the Minister explain why the Prime Minister voted for the widow's tax but has failed to introduce legislation to abolish it?
Thank you, Senator Duniam. Minister Wong.
Sorry, if I may, just very briefly. I'm sorry, I meant to jump earlier. Could I have an extra 5 seconds to just acknowledge the presence in the gallery of the Malaysian Defence Minister, Minister Khaled, Datin Sharina, the High Commissioner, and Tan Sri Johari, the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Welcome to Australia, and I'm sure I speak for the opposition as well in welcoming you here. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank the Senate. Senator, in relation to your question, I think I've been through this a number of times. It is the case that the government indicated on budget night that there would be a number of issues that we would work through in consultation with industry and the community. We have flagged very clearly that the first legislation which was passed contains the core architecture of the tax changes, and that further tranches of legislation would follow, dealing with a range of issues, of which one of those is the issue you have mentioned. So, well, it's an issue about the extent to which grandfathering is applicable and in which circumstances the provisions in relation to the grandfathering of people's existing tax arrangements continue. We will certainly look at that. The Prime Minister's made that clear, and the Treasurer made that clear on Sunday. So I think that is the answer broadly the answer I've given every time you have asked me the same question, Senator. But what I would say to you is it does say something, I think, to all of us that you're not engaging with the content of the tax policy or the legislation which is passed. You are trying, because you have actually no answer. You have no answer on the simple fact that that Australians know the status quo is not working when it comes to the housing market. That something needed to happen, and what has happened is that this government has put first home buyers on the level playing field and removed the advantages that investors had, which meant people were priced out of the market, advantages which you clearly are intent upon retaining.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Duniam, first supplementary.
Thanks, President. Has the Prime Minister now struck another deal with the Greens to keep the widow's tax, which is why he's failed to introduce legislation to repeal it?
Sorry, Senator Duniam. Minister Wong.
The Treasurer could not have been clearer on Sunday about our intentions.
Order. Order. I'd like to hear the Minister's response, and for that to happen, I need order in the chamber. Minister Wong, please continue.
The Treasurer has made the government's position clear. As I said, this goes to grandfathering arrangements. What I again say to the opposition is no one in this, well, perhaps other than you, I think very few Australians believe that the status quo is working for so many Australians, and we on this side want more people to be able to own their own home. That's fundamentally the logic, the motivation behind the legislation which has now passed this parliament.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Duniam, second supplementary.
Thanks, President. Given the Treasurer had made himself so clear, when were drafting instructions issued to prepare legislation to repeal this widow's tax?
Thank you, Senator Duniam. Minister Wong.
Oh, Senator, really, I mean, you would know we've only just passed the core legislation. We've given an undertaking. We've given the undertaking. Well, these are changes which, my recollection, come in 2027. So 1st of July 2027. So a year today. So I can indicate to you that drafting instructions, I'm sure, will be prepared in relation to the tranches of legislation that have been flagged both by the Treasurer and the Prime Minister to deal with some of the detail of these tax policies, well ahead of 1st July 2027, which is when the relevant changes are to come in. And look, I'll take that interjection from the Leader of the Opposition, and I'd say to her, I know that you don't enjoy the fact that the majority of the Parliament was against you when it came to these tax policies, but it is a good thing. It is a good thing for certainty to be delivered to the market, and that certainty is contained in the architecture.
Senator Grogan, before I come to you, I too draw to the attention of honourable senators the presence in the chamber of the Speaker of the House of Representatives from Malaysia and the Malaysian Defence Minister. On behalf of all senators, I wish you a warm welcome to Australia and in particular to the Senate. Senator Grogan.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for Finance and Minister for Women, Senator Gallagher. From today, Australians will benefit from a new suite of cost-of-living measures, including the latest rounds of income tax cuts and the expansion of paid parental leave to a full 6 months for the first time. How will these changes help support women and their families?
Thank you, Senator Grogan. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Grogan for the question and for all the work that she does, along with all of my women colleagues in the Labor Party, to progress gender equality, and not just women, all party members in our caucus room. The Albanese Labor government is delivering real change for women and their families with a suite of cost-of-living measures that start today, including more tax cuts coming in on the 1st of July 2026 and a full 6 months of paid parental leave. We're also strengthening Medicare and making all of those investments in women's health that have been so important and so well taken up by Australian women. In relation to our tax cuts, as I said yesterday, our plan is to deliver a series of 5 tax cuts. 2 have already been delivered. We've got more coming next year, the instant tax deduction and, of course, the Working Australian tax offset. We've expanded paid parental leave to the full 6 months, helping new parents spend more time at home with their youngest family members. And thanks to our changes here, supported by the Labor government, families accessing the full entitlement will receive almost $30,000 across the paid parental leave scheme. This is around double the entitlement available to families before Labor came to government. We're also, of course, backing in the minimum wage and award wage increases that also start today in our submission to the Fair Work Commission's annual review, but also through the direct investments that we have made into care workers, in particular aged care workers and early educators working in the childcare system, who had been left without adequate earning adequate wages, and with no government prior to our government coming to the table
Minister.
prepared
the time
to pay
for responding
them.
has expired. Senator Grogan, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. From today, millions of workers will receive a pay rise through increases to the national minimum wage and modern award wages. Many of them are women, including aged care workers and early childhood educators. And of course, these increases were supported and funded by the Albanese Labor government. Can the minister outline why the government has focused on addressing care workers' pay and how this has increased women's earnings?
Thank you, Senator Grogan. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, and I thank Senator Grogan for the question and again for her dedication to addressing adequate wage outcomes for workers in these important sectors of our economy. In relation to the annual wage review, we did back in a real wage increase, and the annual wage review provided a 6% increase to the national minimum wage, taking the national minimum wage to just over $1,000 per week for a full-time worker for the first time ever. And of course, in the modern award wages will increase by 4.75%, delivering a pay boost to around 2.7 million award-reliant workers across the country. And as we know, women are the majority of those reliant on minimum and award wages. In addition to this, our direct investments into aged care and early education and care workers has significantly increased the wages in that sector, and we now know that women working full-time today are on average $300 more per week earning than they were in.
Senator Grogan, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. It really is excellent to hear about these measures, and I know they're going to make a significant difference. Could the minister outline what other positive outcomes for women the Albanese Labor government has been focused on?
Thank you, Senator Grogan. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, and I think, President, I can do that. And just to cover off that, at the end of the last question, I was just making the point that women working full-time today are, on average, earning almost $300 more per week than they were when we came to government, and it's because of those investments we've made, but it just hasn't been into wages and supporting the wage review. We've also been working around lowering the gender pay gap. We've introduced the Women's Budget Statement. We've seen 650,000 new jobs created for women. We've done our extension of paid parental leave, and this has been reflected in Australia, increasing our ranking in the international gender equality rankings from 43rd when we came to government to 13th on the latest ranking. And this shows that our work of driving gender equality, because it's good for everybody and good for the economy, is working in measurable ways that we've been focused on.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Bragg.
Well, thanks, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. Minister, can you confirm that Australia completed 198,000 houses a year on average under the former coalition government, compared to 170,000 houses in the year to June 2024 under Labor? If not, what are the government's figures?
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator Bragg. And I did, in anticipation that you might ask me some questions, I did get some information about what was particularly happening in your home state of New South Wales, and I thought it would be good. Well, I would hope that you would actually want to. Are you not interested in what happens in New South Wales? Because more than 40,000 Australians have bought their first home in New South Wales thanks to Labor's 5% deposit scheme. So more than 40,000. I'm surprised you're not interested.
Minister Wong, please resume your seat. Senator Bragg.
Thank you, President. Point of order on relevance. The question was about completions under the former government and under this government.
Thank you, Senator Bragg. I listened carefully to your question, and I'm listening to the Minister as she's only just begun her answer. I'll continue listening carefully, and if the Minister doesn't address your question, I will draw her to the question. Thank you.
I can indicate that over 660,000 homes have been built since Labor was elected, and that new home starts are up 26% higher than a year ago, that approvals are up 3 years in a row, and there are more first-home buyers under Labor compared to the coalition. So, Senator, those are figures. I'm sorry? Well, Senator, what... Well, what I would say to you, Senator, is I'm advised that more have been built since we were elected, new home starts are up, approvals are up, and construction cost inflation has been reduced. And more importantly, or as importantly, more first home buyers, more people are now owning their first home under our government as compared to the Liberal Party, and I would hope that you would be very pleased that more than 40,000 Australians have now bought their first home in your home state of New South Wales, thanks to Labor's 5 deposit scheme. And we can provide you with more information around the 40,000 and where they are, and I'm sure Senator McAllister would be very happy to take you to some of the projects as well that we are supporting through the work that we are doing.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Bragg, supplementary.
They've gone down.
Senator Ayres.
They've gone down. Minister, can you confirm that housing completions under Labor have fallen to the lowest level in a decade? And if not, what is the government's figure?
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Wong.
Well, I'll take the interjection from the Leader of the Opposition because she made a suggestion about the government, and what I would say to her is then, like your government, we have actually invested in more houses. That we actually have
It's all going so well.
Order.
The Liberal Party's completed.
Order across the chamber. Senator Watt and Senator Cash. Order. Senator Bragg has asked his question. He's entitled to an answer, but the minister is also entitled to take interjections. And senators should respect when I call you to order. Minister, please continue.
Thank you. What I would make the point, Senator, is that under you, my recollection is you didn't invest in any housing. So you come in worried about, you didn't invest in any housing, and you did not invest in the drivers of housing supply. You believed, and you still assert this, that it should be just left to the private market. Well, we have a view. We have a view that it is important for government to participate.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Bragg, second supplementary.
Thanks, President. Under Minister Claire O'Neil as Housing Minister, housing completions are at their lowest level in more than a decade. First home buyers are falling into negative equity, renters are facing higher rents, builders are warning projects won't proceed as a record number of construction companies face insolvency. Is this what Minister Claire O'Neil considers to be a successful housing policy?
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Wong.
Well, Senator, we recognise that the status quo in the housing market is not acceptable. We do. Well, Senator, that is why we have worked on both the supply side but also on the tax side, and all of which you have opposed, Senator. All of which you have opposed. You opposed tax. Not only did you impose tax rates, but you opposed the changes to taxation that actually gave first-home buyers a crack at the market. You opposed the changes to tax.
Minister Wong. Minister McAllister, you were almost louder than the minister. I've asked for order across the chamber. That is what I expect. Minister Wong, please continue.
Well, Senator, what I said to you is, for you, the status quo is fine. But I wonder who you've talked to. I wonder how many young Australians and how many first home buyers or people who aspire to be first home buyers you've actually spoken to. Because if you had, you wouldn't come in here and tell everybody it's all fine. You wouldn't come in here and say the 5% deposit scheme is rubbish. You wouldn't come in here and say the tax changes are rubbish.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Colbeck, I think I've called you every day for the last sitting period. There is no KPI to the number of interjections you can make. I've asked you, I think, every day this week not to interject, and you interjected constantly. I'm asking you again today, if you can't listen in silence, leave the chamber. Senator Waters.
The question is to the Minister for Finance representing the Treasurer. The government hands over billions of dollars of public money every year to Australia's biggest and most profitable mining corporations through the fuel tax credit scheme. It's cheap diesel for big polluters, fossil fuel subsidies while everyone else has to tighten their belts in a fuel crisis. It's public money to make climate pollution worse. It undermines the climate gains made by renewables, and it disincentivises electrification of heavy industries. The chair of the Climate Authority, Matt Keane, has described this cheap fuel for big miners as insane. The OECD has called for its elimination. Fortescue is running a national ad campaign calling for reform. Climate groups, the ACTU and Labor's own Environment Action Network all say it's got to go. In a climate, fuel and cost of living crisis, why is this government giving billions in handouts to the most profitable and polluting industry on earth?
Your question has expired. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Waters for the question, and I acknowledge this is a long-held view of the Greens political party on the diesel fuel tax rebate. Our tax policies have been outlined in the budget papers, and we have, the ones that we have focused on in this budget have been around doing tax reform, big tax reform in the area of negative gearing and capital gains tax and trust reform. And we, in terms of all of those other areas that Senator Waters identifies around climate, around energy and indeed around fuel, our focus has been on implementing our climate policies and seeing the big change that we're seeing across our economy. Actually delivering that, which we are doing, not only supporting jobs across the economy but also putting downward pressure on energy bills, and we'll continue to focus on that. We'll continue to engage in discussions as we need to in this place. I mean, it has been a long-held view of the Greens to end that rebate. the government has a different view. We have not changed our view on that. But in relation to energy, in relation to climate, in relation to renewables, I mean, look at what's happening in terms of renewable energy in this country and it reducing our reliance on fossil fuels. That's what this government's focused on, actually delivering the change that will power a renewable energy future in this country. That's the work that Minister Bowen and other ministers are focused on, and we are seeing that change happen, and this government welcomes that, and we will continue to work across the board to make sure we can deliver the transformation that's required across the economy.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Waters, first supplementary.
Thanks, President. This government is handing $627 million to BHP, Australia's most profitable company, and $416 million to Rio Tinto, at the same time as you intend to kick 241,000 people off crucial life-changing NDIS support. Why are you prioritising mining company handouts when disabled people are being asked to accept cuts?
Thank you, Senator Waters. Minister Gallagher.
Yeah, well, I understand the political kind of argument about trying to link those two things, but they are quite different. I mean, there is a diesel fuel tax credit scheme that has operated for as long as I can recall, and then there are sensible and needed changes that we are making to the NDIS to secure its future and to ensure that it's sustainable into the long term. They are not linked. The government doesn't see them as linked. We are making those changes to the NDIS because it cannot continue to grow at the rate it is growing. The NDIS will continue to grow, as we know. What we're trying to do is slow the growth of the scheme. For a scheme that was originally intended to be $13 billion a year is now over $50 billion a year and growing. And if we do nothing about it, it will continue to grow in excess of $70 billion a year. It is not sustainable.
Senator Waters, second supplementary.
Thanks, President. The budget papers show that by 2030, Australia will be burning even more diesel than today. Diesel emissions will be higher, and Australia will be more vulnerable to fuel shocks. How can you be serious about energy security and meeting your pathetic climate targets while continuing to subsidise big polluters with a fuel tax credit scheme?
Thank you, Senator Waters. Minister Gallagher.
Well, as I said in my original answer, the government has a different view to that of the Greens political party on the diesel fuel tax credit scheme. In relation to the change that's required, and there is a difference between the Greens political party and a Labor government, is that we are actually delivering the change. We are actually delivering a transformation of our economy into a renewable energy future, and we are doing it. I mean, you can stand on the sideline and criticise and complain about it, but the reality is, when you look at what's happening across our economy, we've seen demand for gas come off because we've seen so much investment in storage, in batteries, that this government is rolling out and making sure that people have access to storage for the solar that they have on their roof, that we are also supporting. So we'll get on with delivering the change, actually doing it in the interest of the nation, while you stand on the sideline and complain.
The time has expired. Senator Sterle.
Well, thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Small Business, Senator Ayres. The Albanese Labor government is backing Australians through a range of measures designed to support Australian small businesses. Last month, the Treasurer announced more than $3.8 billion in new practical support to boost Australian small business. How is the government helping small business grow, create jobs and, Minister, seize new opportunities?
Thank you, Senator Sterle. Minister Ayres.
President, thanks Senator Sterle for that question. As somebody who's worked in the trucking industry for a long time in his life, full of Australian small businesses, he's the right person to ask this important question. We know that a strong economy is only possible when you have strong small businesses, and that great Western Australian Albanese government Minister Anna Lee is making sure we do exactly that. 2.7 million businesses employ 5.2 million Australians and contribute $623 billion every year to the Australian economy. That's why we are delivering more than $3.8 billion in new measures that provide tax relief, support small business resilience and encourage their growth. From the 1st of July, making permanent the $20,000 instant asset write-off. Also the 2-year loss carryback, both of those measures unwound by the Coalition when they were in office, delivering tax cuts for 1.5 million sole traders, including the new $250 Working Australians tax offset, and delivering $8 billion to support the mental health and financial well-being of small business owners. That's not all. Expanding tax incentives for venture capital to unlock more capital for expanding businesses, refocusing the research and development tax incentive to get more impact out of Australian ideas in small businesses, and providing free access to mandatory standards that will save some businesses over $1,600 a year. 7,500 more manufacturing businesses in the economy. Exports in manufacturing in my area up by 43%. Investment in manufacturing up by 35%. This is a government that's delivering for small business every day of the week.
Minister Ayres, the time for answering has expired. Senator Sterle, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Small business owners are located right across the country, from those that work in Australian agriculture to those in rural towns and in our big cities. Can the Ministry outline how the Albanese Labor government's support for small business is helping regional communities create jobs and drive economic growth?
Thank you, Senator Sterle. Minister Ayres.
Well, thank you very much, President. Regional Australia, of course, is home to sole traders, gig workers and small businesses. Many of Australia's farmers and agricultural workers are also small business owners. And that part of the economy in regional Australia, more than any other part of the economy, has felt the impact of this year's global supply shocks. The Albanese government has worked hard to secure the fertiliser and the fuel that they need. In my portfolio area, the Economic Resilience Plan, the National Reconstruction Fund, has lent hundreds of millions of dollars to Australian small businesses, particularly in freight and logistics. The Albanese government securing fertiliser and fuel. Today, Phosphate Hill has announced that it has reached the end of its sale process. The Albanese government and Crisafulli governments working together to deliver for the 500 workers.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Sterle, second supplementary.
Yes, thank you, President. Through our tax relief, fairer competition and cutting red tape, the Albanese Labor government is boosting productivity and helping Australian small businesses stay strong, adapt and grow. This is alongside our tax cuts for every Australian, of which there have now been 5 under this government. Why has the government taken this approach to support Australia's small business sector?
Thank you, Senator Sterle. Minister Ayres.
Well, thank you, Senator Sterle. And of course, tax cuts benefit Australian workers and they benefit small business too. Earlier this week, Senator Hume said that Labor's tax cuts, of which there have been 5, were egregious. She said what she said, no matter what she wishes she said. She said the Liberals' quiet part out loud.
Minister Ayres. Senator Scarr.
Order, direct relevance. Senator Sterle asked a sensible question.
Thank you.
And it's become a personal attack on one of our colleagues.
Senator Scarr, we don't need the running commentary. The minister is being relevant to the question. I'll continue to listen carefully, and if he isn't, I will draw him back to the question. Minister Ayres, please continue.
Well, they don't like it when Australians earn more, and they don't like it when they keep more of what they earn. Now, I had a look. I wasn't sure what egregious meant. I was sure it must have meant good. So I had a look at it in the dictionary. It turns out, I can tell you, the etymology of egregious, it is used by Australians 0.7 times for every million words that are issued. You're just so lucky, Liberals. You're just so lucky that Senator Hume chose to say,
Minister Ayres. Senator Scarr.
President, again, the minister's being egregious in terms of his response to this question.
Thank you, Senator Scarr. Thank you. Thank you, Minister. Please continue.
Well, that's the word that she chose to use to describe tax cuts for every working Australian and support for every Australian small business.
The time for answering has expired. I advise the chamber that Senator Thorpe has passed her question to the Greens, and I call Senator Hodgins-May.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for Early Child Education, Minister Walsh. Minister, this week, Comms Declare revealed that big coal and gas corporations like Woodside, BHP and Santos are funding climate denial propaganda in our early childhood centres, in our schools, in our museums and sports club to downplay the role of coal and gas in driving climate change and promoting fossil fuel brands to children as young as 6 months old. Minister, we would not allow tobacco companies into school to teach about health. We wouldn't allow gambling companies to teach financial literacy. Do you think it passes the pub test for multinational coal and gas corporations to be teaching kids about climate change in our classrooms?
Thank you, Senator Hodgins-May. Minister Walsh.
Thank you, President, and thank the senator for her question. Well, in relation to the report that you reference, which relates to fossil fuel industry approaches on the curriculum, it's probably important to outline what the Commonwealth's role is in relation to these matters. And our role is one of leadership in setting and advocating for what the national priorities are in education and what the national priorities are for the curriculum. One of the national priorities for the curriculum is sustainability. That is one of 3 cross-curriculum national priorities. At the same time, it is really the states and territories who are responsible for managing and regulating schools, and that includes how curriculum is delivered, and it includes, Senator, what resources and what programs are used in our schools. It is at that level of government that decisions are made around teaching materials, around partnerships, around programs, along with education authorities and the schools themselves. Beyond that, Senator, we value the work of the nation's teachers. We value the work of the nation's educators. We trust our teachers. We trust our educators to use their professional discretion to tailor learning to students in the classroom. Again, it's important to understand that our role as the Commonwealth is in setting and advocating for the national priorities in education.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hodgins-May, first supplementary.
Minister, aren't these education programs just loose change compared to what multinational gas corporations should be contributing through a gas export tax that could properly fund our schools and early learning centres so teachers didn't have to rely on nonsense curriculum because they're simply overworked and underfunded?
Thank you, Senator Hodgins-May. Minister Walsh.
Thank you, Senator. Well, I'm proud to report to you and the chamber, in case you missed it, that the Albanese Labor government is investing an additional $20 billion in our public schools through the Better and Fairer Schools agreements. For the first time on our watch, under our government, every single public school student will be funded to the full Gonski standard in every single public school around the country. This is an additional $20 billion commitment for the first time to fund our public schools to the level that all of our public school students deserve. And we are proud to make that commitment. Only the Greens could complain about the biggest new injection of Commonwealth funding to public schools ever.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hodgins-May, second supplementary.
Well, I didn't hear an answer there, so let's try again. Minister, parents expect schools and early learning centres to educate our children, not to market fossil fuel companies. It's outrageous. Will the government finally stare down the gas lobby and support an inquiry into keeping big coal and gas out of our classrooms? It seems like a pretty simple proposition.
Order. 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 Minister Walsh.
Thank you, Senator. Well, I know that the Greens in this place, the Greens political Party love to fuel outrage. That is the fuel that the Greens are most interested in this place. It is fueling outrage. It is not delivering.
Order.
The Greens are not interested in delivering for Australians, and we are. On this side of the chamber, we are proudly investing $20 billion into our public schools. We are fully funding every single public school student.
Minister Walsh, please resume. Senator Ormond-Payne. Senator Ormond-Payne, I should not have to call you to order twice. Senator Ormond-Payne, do not speak back to me. I am requiring you to sit there in silence, and that is an order. Minister Walsh, please continue.
Thank you, President. For the first time, the Albanese Labor government is fully funding every single public school student in every single public school around the country. It is a $20 billion commitment. It is the first time it's ever been done.
Minister Walsh, I'm sorry. Please resume your seat. Senator Hodgins-May.
Your point of order, relevance. My question was around fossil fuel infiltration of schools, not public funding of public schools.
Thank you, Senator Hodgins-May. The minister is being relevant to your question. Order! Order! Senator Shoebridge. Senator Shoebridge. Minister Walsh, please continue.
Thank you. And Senator, you did link your question to the funding that is available to public schools, and we are making historic investments in those schools.
Thank you, Minister. Senator McDonald.
My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. Minister, of Australian first home buyers who entered the market under Labor's expanded 5% deposit scheme, how many have fallen into negative equity since Labor handed down its May budget?
Thank you, Senator McDonald. Minister Wong.
Senator, for the question. And I think I did get this question from the Liberal Party yesterday, but I'm very happy to answer it again. And I'd say to you that, first, that the 5% deposit scheme has helped many thousands of Australians into the market who would not otherwise have entered the market. The advice I have is, first, most people come into the scheme with more than a 5% deposit. Secondly, about 70% are ahead on their repayments and 29% are on time. So that obviously tells you that a very small number are in arrears. In fact, out of more than 200, the advice I have is that out of more than 200,000 guarantees issued, only 13 have been paid out. And in fact, I did look at this after the discussion previously, which is that the evidence from certainly CBA and Westpac is that the performance of that cohort over the last few years is actually better than the average. When it comes to where repayments are. I would make the point too that I note that the RBA Governor in June, earlier last month, said that at the moment practically no one is in negative equity. It's absolutely minuscule, and it has actually declined over the last year or so. So what I would say to you, Senator, is I understand as your coalition parties have so little that you can agree on, other than that you don't want change. It's in your interest to frighten people. I would actually say to you, I don't think it is in your political interest, because the more pessimistic people are, I suspect they look to Ms Hanson, not to Mr Canavan. But that's a strategic decision for you. Sorry, Matt. But if you
thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Order. Order on my right. Senator McDonald, first supplementary.
Minister, if the government doesn't actually know how many first home buyers are now in negative equity, how can you possibly claim that Labor's housing policy has been a success?
Thank you, Senator McDonald. Minister Wong.
Well, Senator, I don't think that the figures I outlined to you match your question. And, in fact, what the figures I outlined suggest or indicate is actually this is a very successful policy that has enabled Australians to get into the housing market, to own their first home. We think that's a good thing. I've also spoken about where people are in terms of arrears, and in fact that this cohort, these Australians who have had the opportunity to get into the housing market, are actually performing slightly better than average when it comes to their repayments. So I find your question unnecessarily alarmist, and I think really displays a philosophical position that you don't actually think government should be helping people enter the housing market.
Thank you, Minister Wong. Senator McDonald, second supplementary.
Minister, does the Prime Minister accept that Australians who relied on Labor's promises to buy their first home are now paying the price through negative equity, understanding that you don't seem to understand that being ahead on your repayments is not negative equity? Negative equity is when your house is worth less than what you owe on it.
Thank you, Senator McDonald. Order. Order. Senators Eyre and Cash. Minister Wong.
Well, I would start by saying this, that when in doubt, try and manufacture a scare campaign, and that's what happens when you don't do the work on your policies, when you don't do the work on tax policy, on wages policy, on economic policy. And that is what you have been doing. What has been interesting this week has been to observe the way in which those opposite have not actually been able to engage with the centre of the tax policies. What you've been trying to do is engage in really scare campaigns which have no foundation. And, Senator, they have no foundation, as I have outlined in my primary answer to you. You see, the difference between us and you is we actually want more Australians to own their own home. We want more people to own their own home, and I know that you on that side find that a very difficult proposition, but I actually think it's a motivation most Australians share.
I further advise the chamber that Senator Payman has passed her question to Senator David Pocock.
Thanks, President. My question is to the Minister for Science, Industry, Senator Ayres. Minister, this week, National Collaborative Research Infrastructure Strategy, NCRIS, celebrated 20 years, one of the most successful and longest-running government programs. Yet for the first time in this year's budget, there was no detailed funding profile for NCRIS over the forward estimates. Why is this, and can the government guarantee that NCRIS funding will continue in full post the 2028-29 funding cliff it currently faces?
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Senator Ayres.
Well, thank you, Senator Pocock. I can tell you that in relation to NCRIS, to our broader research infrastructure requirements, in relation to our science institutions, that this Albanese government, in every year that we've been in office, but I can tell you that in particular over the last year, has put in more than any previous government to deliver sustainability and focused effort across our research infrastructure. We will, of course, as part of our normal budget processes, in the lead-up to every budget, in the normal way, make an assessment of the short and long-term requirements for research infrastructure funding. I have been very happy to be able to be part of a government that, in relation to the CSIRO, which in terms of research infrastructure and its assets around Australia, has a very substantial research footprint. In this budget, to add, in addition to the around $1 billion that the government provides to the CSIRO, an additional $387.4 million. In addition to the more than $200 million that the government provided in MyUFO last year. This is a government that is serious about the role of science, serious about the role of the full research and development sector, including our incredible universities that I saw Senator Hanson, one of the three right-wing parties over here, bagging the university sector earlier today. Our fantastic universities doing fantastic research work, all of the Australian research infrastructure
Thank you, Minister. The
pointing
time
in the
for
right
answering
direction.
has expired. Senator Pocock, first supplementary.
Thanks, President. Thank you, Minister. I think we might need to fact-check your assertion that your government has done more than any government on research, because as I understand it, our total R&D spend as a percentage of GDP continues to slide. We had the CERD in March. We've only seen one of the 6 core recommendations progressed. Why is there a delay in implementing an ambitious Australia?
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister Ayres.
Well, Senator, what we are delivering in a substantial and serious way as a government, well, it actually does things. We commissioned that report. There's a substantial part of that report dealt with in the budget. Don't be offended, but I'm not really going to take your report card on our achievements in this area. What is certain is governments deliver, independents talk. We have delivered substantial funding for the CSIRO. You haven't built a roundabout. We have delivered.
Minister Ayres, please resume your seat. Order, 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 order on my right. Senator Scarr.
Personal reflections.
But
it's
why
an
are you on your feet?
independent
Senator,
point
why
of
are
order.
you on your feet?
Point of order.
Thank you.
Personal reflections.
thank
I'm
you.
mindful of the fact Senator Pocock is an independent.
Thank you, Senator Scarr. There isn't. It's not a personal reflection, Minister. But I will remind the minister to address the chair when answering the question. Minister Ayres.
What we are doing is grappling with the real challenges of the Australian research and development system. Not complaining, not seeking to find a sort of new set of Instagram posts. We are about delivering substantially for Australian science and research. And that is what governments do, and that is what an adult, serious government does in a real substantial way.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Pocock, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Minister Ayres. I think we'll all make our minds up about the way you interact in this place. When will the National Innovation Council...
Order, order, order. Senator Pocock, please resume your seat. Minister Walsh, Minister Watt, I'm assuming you have sat down. Senator Pocock, please continue.
What was wrong with that? What was wrong with that?
Senator Pocock, I've invited you to ask a question.
Sure. Minister, when will the National Innovation Council be established?
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister Ayres.
Ready?
Yes, I called you.
Well, in the budget, Senator, the National Resilience and Science Council was established, and it will be legislated, and it will direct the work of Australia's research and development, our commercialisation capability, our industrial policy. We will deliver legislation to the parliament in the normal way. It is a mobilisational effort to harness our national research and development capacity in the Commonwealth, in the states, in the university sector, and point them at Australia's big challenges. And Senator, you might find it offensive to have somebody say to you that what you do is complain and don't deliver, but you find it perfectly fine, including in your contributions earlier today,
Ayres,
to cast
address your
inferences,
comments
President,
to the chair.
to cast inferences, and are shocked when people respond. We announced in the budget that a bigger and bolder initiative than the one that you talked about just then.
Order. 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 Senator Polley.
President, my question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Health and Ageing, Senator McAllister. Delivering cost of living relief and quality health care is a key priority for the Albanese Labor government. Today, the government is delivering more investments to make our health system more affordable more accessible for all Australians. Can you, Minister, outline how these investments will deliver real change for Australians and ensure that Australian families get the health that they deserve?
Thank you, Senator Polley. Minister McAllister.
Thank you, President. And Senator Polley, I thank you for drawing attention to what is happening today, because today is a good day for Australia's families, and it's a great day for our health system, because the Albanese Labor government is delivering a record $220 billion to our public health system. Now, in your home state, Senator Polley, Tasmanians will receive $5.1 billion in total hospital funding over the next 5 years. And across the country, there is 3 times more additional funding for public hospitals than under the Morrison government's last 5-year agreement. And why are we making these investments? Because there is a lot to do. The previous government, the previous Liberal government, spent nearly a decade neglecting the health system that Australians depend on. Well, that was their choice. This government makes a very different choice. We are choosing to give nurses and doctors the resources that they need to do their jobs. We are choosing to ensure that Australians, wherever they live, wherever they come from, can better access the care that they need. We are choosing to make that care available before Australians even reach the hospital door. With 137 Medicare urgent care clinics open across this country, providing bulk billed care. From today, they are a permanent feature of Medicare. That's 8 Medicare urgent care clinics in your home state of Tasmania, Senator, all permanent. We hear from families, from workers, from hospital staff just how important these clinics are. They are taking pressure off our emergency departments. But we saw how those opposite ridiculed Medicare urgent clinics, called it wasteful spending. The 3 million Australians who have walked through the door of these clinics have gotten free urgent care.
Thank you, Minister. The
and
time
they
for
disagree.
answering has expired. Senator Polley, first supplementary.
Thank you, Minister, for answering the question and highlighting the importance of what we're delivering. Today, the Albanese Labor government is expanding access to life-changing treatments for more Australians, from vaccines to medicines. Can the Minister outline how the government is continuing to invest in more treatments for Australians?
Thank you, Senator Polley. Minister McAllister.
Thank you, President. The Albanese Labor government is focused on delivering more affordable treatments for more Australians, and today we are doing exactly that. From today, the pneumococcal vaccine will be expanded for older Australians over 65 through the National Immunisation Program, and that means more Australians will have access to the best and most comprehensive protection against pneumococcal for free. This is on top of the new cheaper medicines we are adding to the PBS. Long-acting insulin that will support people with type 2 diabetes, a nasal spray for the emergency treatment of anaphylaxis, treatment for non-small cell lung cancer, all now available for no more than $25. Now, if the Liberals and the Nationals and One Nation had had their way, Australians would have been paying more than $50 for a PBS script in 2026. That is $2.7 billion in savings delivered since 2022 that the coalition of chaos opposed.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Polley, second supplementary.
President, since coming to government, the Albanese Labor government has worked to protect and strengthen Medicare for every Australian. Can the minister outline why the government is making these investments, and what are the threats to these investments, Minister?
Minister McAllister.
Thank you, President, and you are absolutely right, Senator, that we are making these investments because Labor governments will always protect and strengthen Medicare. And since coming to government, we have put money back into hospitals, made more medicines cheaper and gotten bulk billing rates up again after a decade of free fall. But we should be clear-eyed about the risks, and they are all over there, Senators, because the Coalition's record is there for everyone to see. Cuts to Medicare, cuts to public hospitals, they are all about cuts, except once, except when it comes to voting for tax cuts. Then they're not interested, but they are interested in cuts to public health. And sitting right next to them on many occasions, although not right now, is One Nation, a party whose biggest contribution to health policy is a commitment to abolish the TGA, the very body that keeps medicine safe for Australians. The coalition of chaos, all of those opposite, have never valued public health.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Hume.
Madam President, my question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. In the 4 years since Labor was elected, according to the ABS, inflation has gone up by around 23.9% for working households. That means that people have paid more at the checkout, more in their energy bills, more on rents and more in taxes. According to your own budget, tax as a percentage of GDP is forecast to increase this financial year. How many Australians will pay more in taxes this financial year than they did in the previous financial year?
Thank you, Senator Hume. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, and I thank Senator Hume for the question, particularly on a day that the second of our 5 tax cuts come in, the second of our 5 income taxes that we are bringing in, that those opposite have voted against. So they come in here and they raise concerns around the amount of tax that might be being collected, and yet when we have sought to cut income tax, they went to a campaign saying they were going to raise income taxes. They went to an election campaign promising to raise income taxes, and then since they have voted against the tax cuts that are coming in today and the tax cuts that will come in at the end of this financial year and the Working Australian tax offset, all of that. So forgive me for not taking your question seriously, Senator Hume. Forgive me for not believing that you are genuinely concerned about the tax that is being paid by Australians, when on this side of the chamber, when we've sought to increase wages, you've voted against it. When we've sought to reduce people's pressure on their cost of living, whether it be through medicines, whether it be through energy bill relief, whether it be through our investments in Medicare, those opposite have voted against it. They've voted against our increases to wages. They've seen it as wasteful spending, our investments in early education and care and aged care. So forgive me for not taking your question seriously, because how you vote in here matters, because that's actually where you make the difference, and you vote no to everything. Everything that we have tried to do to ease the pressure on households, to reduce inflation, you have voted against. And then you come in here and you say you're concerned about it all. Well, forgive me, Senator Hume, I don't believe you.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hume, first supplementary.
Okay, let's put aside your egregious tax hikes on housing, investment, saving, innovation, entrepreneurs, and an egregious tax hike on widows. After your cup of coffee tax cut, how many days will it take before the average income earner is paying more in taxes because of bracket creep based on your budget's own inflation forecasts?
Thank you, Senator Hume. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Hume for the question. And again, this government has shown not only our appetite to return bracket creep, but actually deliver it, actually do it. And we did it in 2024 when we changed the Stage 3 tax cuts that were only going to give certain income earners tax cuts and make sure that they were fairer. And we're doing it today, and we'll do it next year, and we'll do it with our instant tax deduction, and we'll do it with the Working Australian tax offset, all designed to reduce the tax burden on working Australians. And when we have sought to do so, Senator Hume, you have sought to protect the status quo. You have sought to protect the status quo through the way you voted, when you voted against a better and fairer approach to our tax system. Those opposite voted against it, and we are returning it to working Australians.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hume, second supplementary.
Thank you. Minister, can you look up into the gallery and tell those Australians whether they will pay more for groceries, petrol, energy and rents this year than they did last year, because of the way your government is managing the economy and letting inflation remain too high for too long.
Thank you, Senator Hume. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, the message I would give those in the gallery is this: the message I would give all Australians is this government is 100% focused on easing the cost of living burden on Australians, about a better and fairer tax system that reduces the burden on 13 million Australian workers, about getting wages moving again, about repairing the budget, about lowering the debt and lowering the interest on that debt. That is the approach we take. We've taken it since we came to government. We will continue that. And where we can afford it, we will give tax back through tax cuts that you voted against. And the people in the gallery and around should judge your voting record and the way that you have said no every single time we have brought reform into this chamber to make life easier for working Australians. You have voted against it.
Thank you, Senator Hume. I did call you to order. You completely ignored me. Senator, I'm going to call the next Senator Wong unless you.
Time.
Oh,
I was just checking if there was a point of order.
I didn't even notice. Sorry.
Sorry.
Having such fun. Minister Wong.
I ask that further questions be placed on notice.